52 BC. Caesar was able to win consecutive victories, but the Gauls were far from defeated. Vercingetorix, the Gallic leader, called a council of war. They decided to change tactics. From now on, direct battles with Ceasar should be avoided, but far more drastic measures were taken. They used the scorched earth tactic to cut off Caesar's food supplies. The Gauls set fire on all their villages and farmsteads in central Gaul, generally all areas that could not be protected by fortifications and advantageous terrain. In one single day, more than 20 cities of the victories would be set on fire. The other tribes did the same. The Roman troops were to be starved. The Roman army were thus in a critical situation. In the middle of enemy territory, it was difficult to supply their troops. The supply routes were long and were often ambushed. The Gauls had the clear cavalry superiority and repeatedly launched attacks on the supply trains. In addition, it was winter, so no grain or any other food could be harvested. The Romans had the choice: retreat, starve to death, or advance dangerously far from their camps. Caesar set out for Avaricum, since it's the largest and best fortified city of the victories. With a victory, he hoped to bring the tribe to its knees. It was also a fertile area. With the conquest of the city, he would have enough supplies for the rest of the winter. Vercingetorix wasn't sure. Should he set the city on fire or spare? The victories begged for mercy. After destroying so many of their own cities, they wanted at least this one spared. They explained to him,
"Avaricum is one of the most beautiful cities in all of Gaul. It's easy to defend this city because of its advantageous terrain. It's surrounded on almost every side by the river and swamp. There is only one very narrow entrance. An attack on the city would be extremely costly."
Vercingetorix nevertheless advises against it, but the crowd is softened by the pleadings and takes pity on them, so he bends to their will and orders the city to be defended. The Gauls followed Caesar's army and sets up camp 16 miles from Avaricum, a position that were protected by swamps and forests. The Romans started to build a dam to widen access. Furthermore, shelters and 2 towers were built. Enclosing the wall was impossible due to the nature of the place. They could only attack from this narrow entrance. The Roman legionnaires suffered from severe food shortages. They had nothing to eat for several days. Under these circumstances, Caesar asked his units if he should cancel the siege, but they begged him to maintain it. They replied,
"We had served under your command for several years and had experienced severe deprivation. It would be a disgrace for us to abandon this siege."
While the construction was being completed, Vercingetorix planned an ambush on the Roman supply troops. He was moving his cavalry closer to Caesar's position. Caesar countered with a quick night march to the Gallic main camp, so that he was forced to move the cavalry back to defend his camp. When Vercingetorix retreated back, this led to great resentment in the Gallic camp. Some leaders even accused him of treason. He defended his act and brought forth several captured Roman soldiers. They reported that the Roman legionaries would withdraw in 3 days if they made no progress in the siege. The Gauls began to cheer and sent 10,000 chosen ones to Avaricum. The inhabitants of the city were great miners. They had large iron mines nearby, so tunnel construction was common with them. Through sophisticated tunnel systems, they repeatedly attacked the Romans. They had provided the entire wall with multi-story towers on all sides, covered with leather. Frequent sorties day and night slowed down construction. They either tried to cause fires or attacked the soldiers. The Romans were not given any break to recover. When the Romans tried to attack the siege, engines were fended off with red-hot pitch and stones. After 25 days, the dam was nearly finished. He was 330 feet long and 80 feet high, about to touch the wall. In this night, just before the 3rd watch, the dam began to smoke. The enemies had dug a tunnel and set it on fire from there. Before the legionnaires could intervene, the gates were opened and a sortie was made on both sides. Torches, dry wood and pitch were thrown from the walls to increase the fire. The legionnaires did not know where to intervene first, but the confusion didn't last long. The Roman troops were excellently organized. According to Caesar's instructions, 2 legions were always on guard in front of the camp, so the resistance could be put up quickly. The Gauls fought like savages. This was the crucial moment to decide the siege in their favor. Caesar describes their courage with a little anecdote. A Gallic warrior threw balls of tallow and pitch into a nearby fire, but after a while he was pierced by a scorpion. Without hesitation, a second person took his place. After he died, a third, then a fourth. That happened as long until the Gauls could be pushed back into the city. The soldiers retreated back into the town and made a plan to flee from the city the following day, since all attempts to win this battle were unsuccessful. The destruction of the city was almost certain. In the following night they were already on their way to flee when the mothers stormed the streets, begging them not to leave women and children defenseless. The troops could not take them with them, as they would be a huge obstacle to the following combats. When they realized that they still wanted to go without them, they began to shout. The shouting drew the attention of the besiegers. The retreat was impossible now. On the next day, the siege engines were ready. The weather was bad. It rained heavily. The guards on the walls were weakly manned. They were not expecting an attack on this bad conditions. Caesar wanted to seize the moment and ordered the attack. He shouted out rewards for those who reached the wall first. The Roman legions cheered and charged Avaricum. Surprised by the force of the attack, the Gauls quickly withdrew from the walls and took up positions in a wedge formation on the big squares. The Romans spread out on the walls, but did not attack. Panic broke out among the Gauls. They feared that the Romans cut off any escape routes so that they would be trapped in the city. They abandoned their positions, threw down their weapons, and tried to flee. A mass panic broke out. Without discipline and order, the Gauls were massacred by the Romans. There was no mercy. Spurred on by all the toil and drudgery, they spared no one. Of 40,000 people, only 800 survived this bloodbath. Vercingetorix wisely sent a few of his soldiers forward to meet the fugitives. They lined them up individually and divided them by tribe. A gathering of the fugitives could have led to an uprising within the troops and would have led to a significant weakening of morale. He avoided that, but they had to retreat in the direction of Gergovia. This battle was a great defeat for the Gauls. Caesar had gained significantly more room for maneuver through the conquest. He stayed in Avaricum for a few days and was now able to stock up on sufficient food supplies. Even if it can be assumed that not everything that is told is true, Caesar's work, Commentarii de Bello Gallico, impressively shows how disciplined and strong his legions are. After this battle, the Gallic War now enters its decisive phase. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to hear more of these battle commentaries, please subscribe and leave a comment. See you next time, your geek philosopher.